references. So now let's move towards two-dimensional array. So we got two-dimensional array. So let's go for two-dimensional array of integers. Okay, what exactly it is, right? Okay, now a two-dimensional array, we call it as two-dimensional array, but it's nothing but like this, right? Oh, one more point I just missed out earlier. Even in the earlier case, even with single dimension. So if let me go back. So even with our single dimension, when we allocated an array, fine, when we allocated an array, int array, fine, a equals this. Here, declaring int array a like this is same as, you can either declare like this or something closer to the C language. You could have even done like this. This is also valid. Suppose you write int a and square bracket. This and this are same. Both are acceptable. Okay, syntax wise, both are acceptable. Okay, so on those lines, and on those similar lines, when we come and talk about a two-dimensional array, okay, if you talk about a two-dimensional array, this thing is also equivalent to int array a array. This, and it's also equivalent to int a array array. These three are same. Fine. You want to allocate an array, a two-dimensional array. So this is just a declaration, okay? This is just declaring one variable, which is of type a two-dimensional of integer array, two-dimensional array of integers. Fine. Or we look at it as an array of array. It's an array of integer array. Fine. A is an array of integer array, right? A is array of an integer array. Okay. Fine. So if you look at it, if we want to allocate, fine, I'll just on this side, let me write the new. How do we write a new? So for new, I'll have to allocate two dimensions. You have two options here. You can say new int and then specify the dimension for the first level. So I can say, okay, let me have, let's say 10, and second level, I can allocate 5. This is one option, sorry, this is 5. Oops. Fine, you got? Fine, you have specified two things. Or you could even do something like this. You could even leave, so this is one option where you give both the dimensions, or you might specify only one dimension. You might say int, first dimension maybe I just specify 10 and second dimension I leave it blank. Even this is valid. Okay. This is also going to allocate an array for me. Fine. Okay, let's consider the first case. And let's consider the first case here. Okay, so if we consider our first case, we have a as a variable and we are saying allocate. Yeah, now if I have said a equals new int 10 5, What is A dot length? What's going to be A dot length? Yeah. Fine. A dot length should be 10. It won't be 50. Fine. A dot length is 10. How the allocation is happening? A dot length is 10. At the first level, yes, it's an array of references. There are going to be how many references? 10 references. Fine. This is of type, the A is of type 2 dimension. The elements here are of type single dimension. That's a reference type. Okay, this is also a reference type, but these are also reference types. Fine, and then this is A0. Okay, A0 in turn is a reference, right? And this is referring to an array with 5 elements. Each one here refers to an array with 5 elements. Fine. So like this. And each one. References. Fine. This is of type, the A is of type 2 dimension. The elements here are of type single dimension. That's a reference type. Okay, this is also a reference type, but these are also reference types. Fine, and then this is A0. Okay, A0 in turn is a reference, right? And this is referring to an array with 5 elements. Each one here refers to an array with 5 elements. Fine. So like this. And each one. Fine. What is A dot length? Now you can see. What's A dot length? 10. There are 10 elements in this. What is A0 dot length? Because A0 is also a array. Okay, A0 dot length would be 5. Okay, A1 dot length 5. Fine. This is the first one, right? Where we specified like this. Now you can understand what would happen if instead of saying A equals new int 10 5, if someone had said A equals new int 10 only. If this is what was done and second was left blank, what do you think would happen?
The 10 objects will only be created.
Yeah, the additional 10 objects would not be created. Fine. You got A, and that refers to an array with 10 elements. And these are the 10 references. Fine. And what's here? So 10 nulls, yeah.
The next level of it would be 0 0.
And yeah.
ये reference है यहाँ पे by default 0 है next level वाला.
Yeah, this ones? Yeah, they are integers. The type is integers. They are going to be zeros. Okay. Now another point was, if we go back to the earlier example, okay, fine. After doing this, new int 10 5, and then someone can do like this. Someone can say a of 1 equals, and he pushes a new array, fine, which may be a constant, and just says 2 3 9, maybe. He just puts like this. Valid or not? Clear? This is of type int array. This is an int array. That's valid. So what is a0 dot length? 5. What is a1 dot length? 3 now. Every row, if you are looking at it as a two-dimensional array, every row can have different number of columns. Okay, every row can have different number of columns.
What about the rest of the two types?
Rest of the two? No, there is no rest of the two. This is not the object. It's a new object which has only 3 elements. 2, 3, 9. And you lose this. You don't refer that one. You refer to a new one. The point is, every row can have different number of columns.
So if we 2, 3, 9 and total 5 elements, then
If you had 5 elements,
then what?
I didn't get. This is 3 elements only.
Okay. If we had 5 elements,
5 elements, it would be whatever you give.
then
It's whatever you have.
New object created or
Yeah, new object only. You are saying assignment. It's an assignment. Assignment to a reference. Remember, A0, A of I. This are of type array. They are reference type. They are references. You make an assignment to it, it's another object.
So every assignment is a new object.
Yeah, yes. And someone could even put like this, A of 2 equals null. This is also okay. What's going to happen? Oh, there was some array, it's losing reference to it. That's it. This is null. I'm not referring anywhere. Null means I'm not referring anyone. There's no object here.
So what is the point to reference to a null array, 0 array?
No, it's not 0, it's a null.
Yes, but every element has
The reference is null. It does not refer anywhere.
But initially it is reference
Even,
elements array.
yeah, one second. Even someone could say A equals null. What happens? That's valid.
Yes, valid.
What happens?
In
Stop referring anywhere. I'm not referring. That's it. No, there's nothing with me. There's no object here. Fine. I don't have any object. Fine. Null means not referring anywhere. Assignment. Fine. It's through assignment. Okay. You lose objects. Whenever we make an assignment, we lose the earlier object. There's a new object. Fine. It's a different object. Whatever you are giving, that's another one. Fine. You are not updating an existing object. Variables are references. They are not objects. Assignment brings in a new object. Refer to a different object. You lose reference to the earlier object. Fine. With assignment, you are changing references.
So if we had a of 1 of 0 is equals to some value.
A of 1 of 0. What's the type?
It is integer.
Primitive.
Primitive.
Yes. There you have values. It's not reference.
So we assign some value.
Yes.
Then it is updating our current array.
This one. This is A0, this is A00. So if someone says A of 0 equals 9, you put a 9 here. Others were all zeros, okay?
Okay. So A of 0 dot length is equals to 5.
A0 dot length, yes, this is A0. This is the array, it has 5 elements. Yeah. And these are A0, A1, A2, A9. Right? And here we have A00, this is A01, this is A02, A03, A04. The type for A0 and something is primitive, but A of I reference, A reference, AI reference, AIJ, that's primitive. That's integer.
In a string, it is not possible. In a string, every time it's create a new object. In a string,
Instead of int,
in a string,
instead of a int, if it was a string,
string
yeah, string means, okay, if this was a two-dimensional array of a string, okay, then this would have been a reference.
okay.
String is a reference type.
Other than that,
Fine. Assignments, fine, they would mean something. Okay. So now a small example using a two-dimensional array. Okay. Fine. So let's take a simple example here, and so yeah, I have a two-dimensional int array A equals, and we use that same thing, new int 10 5. Fine, we have new int 10 5. Okay, and then we are saying A of 2 equals A of 0. Valid?
yes.
And then we write like this. We'll say, let's have a for loop for int I equals 0, I less than A dot length, semicolon I plus plus. See, if you want to iterate over all the elements of a two-dimensional array, then we can do something like this. Okay. Then a nested loop for int j equals 0, j less than, we should use A of I dot length, semicolon j plus plus. And here we have something like this. We are saying A of ij equals I plus j. And we have this for loop. At the end of this loop here, someone says, let's print the value of, so we want to print the value of A of 03. What do you think is printed?
3. No.
Think again.
It is 2.
Yeah? A03. A03 should be A03. We are doing A of ij equal to I plus j. Aij is going to be I plus j. That's one thing we are doing. But don't ignore the effect of this. That's something which has to be seen. What happens if you make A2 equals A0? What's the effect of this? Yeah, these are references. Okay, let's see how it appears. Okay, so this is A. Fine, the initial allocation goes like this. A refers to an array with 10 elements, and there are those 10 elements A0, A1, A2 and so on up to A9. Each one in turn is referring to another object which has 5 elements. This in turn again has its own set of 5 elements, and this one also has its own set of 5 elements, and so on. Okay, now what's the effect of A2 equals A0? What is A2? This is A2. I am making an assignment to A0. It would mean you stop referring here, starts referring to the same object as the one referred by A of 0. Now onwards, if I use A0 of something or A2 of something, it would mean the same. Whether it is A0, A00 is here. Where is A20? That's same. A0, A2 refer to the same object. And reference assignment. Assigning a reference. It means this. Okay, so now what's the answer? What's the value of the A03? When it iterates, it uses I equals 0. Okay, and updates this with 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. It goes here 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and then I becomes 2 and it updates this place only. It says 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Fine, then it would update rest of the things. What is A0? This is A0. Fine, 0, 1, 2, 3. A03 is what? 5. 2 plus 3, 5. And not 0 plus 3, because 0 plus 3 was replaced, same place was replaced with 2 plus 3. And first I was 0, then it became 2. So if I have to answer what is A0 of 3, or it is same as A2 of 3. Fine. Or if someone says what is A2 of 3, or it is same as A0 of 3. See, after this, suppose someone says A of 0 of 1 equals 3 and asks what's the value of A23, A21, sorry, it would be 3. Whether A0 something or A2 something, it is the same object. A0, A2 are the same object. It's the same array object. Yeah, is it clear? No. Fine, we have this. Yeah, this is the allocation. And then in this line, A2 equals A0. Fine, at the second level, fine, we are referring to a same object. Fine, this would mean after this, A2 of something or A0 of something is the same. You are updating the A2 reference to refer to the same object as what A0 is referring. Fine. So assignment for reference type. So object reference model, different from C++. And the assignment means something else here, right? And so main difference between primitive and reference is that must be clear now.